Hi to all my sewing and designing friends. It's Marcy Tilton. I'm in my studio on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and I have a project that I want to share with you. I am making a version of my Vogue 9112. I call this the Cirque dress. If I pan across my studio, you can see I've got the originals hanging up so I can take a look at them while I work on them. And what I want to make is a version of this dress with a sleeve by request, by popular request of many people. So the fabric that I'm using is one of our new Japanese cottons. We call it Green Springs. It kind of looks like sumi-ai painting to me, but done with a pale green. It's gorgeous. I'm being bold and just cutting it right off the bolt. And so when I go to laundrette, I'll wash it in cold water. So let me I've got a step stool here, and I'm going to pan up, and I want to show you how I cut it out and kind of the secrets of what I did. So there's the sleeve. So I did two things to this garment. One is I added a sleeve. The trick, I simply found a shirt pattern that had almost the same armhole as my garment. And so when I compared the armholes, they were enough alike that all I had to do was make it just a tiny bit bigger. So if you look at the red line on the sleeve, that was the shirt, and the dress was a little bit bigger, so I just added it onto the side seams. Then the other thing I did was to add to the length, and this is an experiment, like all sewing projects are an experiment. So what I did is if I pan across and you look, what I've done is I've laid the garment out as it will be sewn together. So over here you see the back. So there's two back pieces. There are back panels. And take a look, I've added 5 inches onto the bottom of the whole dress. So there's the sleeve as it'll go in. Here's the front. And there's a front panel, so I added 5 inches onto that, but I made a mistake. And once it was all cut out, I realized that I'd forgotten to add the seam allowance onto this crucial center front panel. Oops. So in one moment I thought, I am going to just cut another piece because I have the whole roll of fabric. But then I thought, anybody else in their right mind who didn't own the fabric store would have to come up with a more creative solution. So here's what I did. I pieced it. So if you look, you can see the piecing. I used, see if we can get close up on this. I used the selvage, which had writing on it, which I thought was rather charming. So when I go to sew it, my secret with piecing is to never take the pattern piece off the pattern. So the pattern piece is still pinned on. So what I did was I pinned on this extra piece, which is just bigger than. I sewed it in place while the paper was still on it. So there's my stitching line. There's 2 stitching lines here because the first one was a little bit narrow, so I just deepened it. It can stay. And now what I've done is to draw in the cut line. So you can see in orange, now I'm going to cut it. And the next thing I'll do is I'll put the garment together. So if you're making this dress, really the secret is the layout like this. So when I go to sew this together, I usually start with the back. That's just one of my tricks, is anytime I'm working on a garment, I start with the back. So I'll put the back together as far as it can go and then join it to the front. When I go to join the sleeve, I will do the sleeve in the round, and I will make the sleeve and I'll keep open to possibilities in case it doesn't work. So stay tuned. I'm going to do a little sewing now, and the next video I'll show you the results, and hopefully the sleeve will work. And I think the one thing I didn't mention about the sleeve is I cut the sleeve 3/4 length. How did I know what to do? Well, I took some favorite garments in my closet. I measured the length of the sleeve. I measured the width, and I went with that. So I've got a little bit of wiggle room there in case I want to make it a little bit longer or shorter. So stay tuned for the next segment of the Cirque dress. So once again, this is what the pattern envelope looks like. It is Vogue 9112, and we'll see how it looks longer. I also, in parting, I'm going to mention that if you have the picture of the pattern envelope, the models are really, really tall. So on me, I'm about 5'5", 5'6". This hits me below, just a little below the knee. So this will be a little bit longer length, and hopefully I'm going to love it. And hopefully you're having fun sewing in your studio too. Happy designing and sewing from my studio to yours.